Zillow has declared war. There is something going on in the real estate industry that you must know about, and Zillow is going hard. Folks, if you don't know what's going on, essentially what happens over the years is there's this thing called off-market opportunities. Historically speaking, as a real estate agent, you could take a listing, and I believe you had up to 48, might have been 72 hours before you had to put it out in the public domain. That behavior has changed, been modified, but Zillow is saying and declaring war on off-market deals. What does it mean? Is it good? Is it bad? We're going to have this conversation with the one and only and CEO of Hemlane, Dana Dunford. How you doing, Dana?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. So what is, from where you sit, right? Somebody who is a data aggregator, somebody who has a platform, what is your feeling about Zillow declaring war on off-market deals?
I think the biggest thing to take away from it is this is self-incentivized. It's not like they're trying to do the greater good for, for mankind and real estate investors and folks who want to buy their first primary residence. They're doing this because they are finding more often these brokerages are holding on to the properties, listing it, only on their website and sharing it with their network to say, especially Compass is one of the big ones they're going after. Compass will say, great, we've got this off-market listing. Let's share it with only the Compass community. Let's really make our brokerage have a stronger name for itself because we've got differentiation. In other words, we've got properties other people don't, other brokers don't. And that has really rubbed Zillow the wrong way because they want to go out there and say everything that is available is on Zillow. And so it's from their perspective, and everyone has their perspective. Their perspective is what benefits them. Compass and these brokerages who have these listings that are off market, it is what benefits them, which is differentiation as a brokerage for their clients. And then you have players like CoStar coming in, and CoStar is siding with the brokerages saying it's okay to have some off-market deals, in part because CoStar hates Zillow. So the whole thing is just everyone having their own incentives there. And I also just think there's a really gray area because let's just say, Michael, you're an agent and you have an off-market deal. Maybe you haven't even posted it on your brokerage website or to the community, but what if you have started sharing it with some of other agents or some of your clients? And then at what point do you need to sign that listing? If you're working with me, pushing a contract to me just to say I can go ahead and share this and I need to post it right to the MLS. There's a lot that goes into it that makes it a really gray. And I think what will happen is if you come to me and say, I've got a property to list, we're going to say we have to list it right away. We need to get the contract signed because of some sort of risk associated with having off market that you're not sharing.
Yeah, I think when we look at this, I love the fact that you brought it up, right at the beginning, is Zillow's talking their own book. I think Compass would talk their own book. But let's actually step back and look at this from an economic perspective, right? There's really two parties involved in this transaction. One is the seller and one is the eventual buyer. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about off-market deals, that's where it gets interesting. Is it the real estate agent or listing agent's job just to sell the property? Or is it his or her job to get the best price? And that's really where, I don't think you can really have price discovery with, 10 eyes looking at it. It should be 10,000 eyes looking at it. This is where it gets really interesting. Is it just to sell or is it to maximize something? What do you think?
Michael, this may be where a real estate agent pushes back because I've always wondered, we had a property down the street that was off market. And I was like, why wouldn't they put it on the market? And I asked them, of course, I was like, but why? Their real estate agent had told them that if it's off market, and a really, a buyer who says, I want to buy on that street, you let me know if anything's there. You can suddenly even push the price potentially higher than they would be comfortable with because you as the buyer who's putting in the offer you do not have additional data of how much this is going to go for. And let me give an example. Like for me, whenever I'm purchasing a property, my number one question is, how many disclosure packets have you sent out?
Mm.
Because to me, that is understanding intent. How many people are looking to buy this? If you have 25 disclosure packets, this is not going for market price.
Yeah, no.
If you have 0 when it's been on market for 60 days, you better believe I'm going to do the Michael Zuber, give a what do you say with really low
Disrespectful.
offers? Disrespectful offer. And so that's what they would argue. But I actually agree with you. Putting it on the market will increase that demand significantly. I totally agree, but that might be the counter argument.
No, I mean, I get it. I've been doing this game a long time. So I'll give you the one example where I think being off market is the right example. And this is the only one that I kind of accept. And I actually know sellers that have said this. These happen to be sellers that don't want the intrusive nature of dozens, if not 20, 30 people coming through their home. They're just like, hey, give me this number. I just want this number. I don't need bidding wars. I don't want it. I don't need that chaos. I just want out, and here's my out number. I think there's absolutely reasons to keep something off market because, frankly, if a seller tells you, like I'll use Compass because you brought it up earlier. If a seller goes to a Compass agent and says, do not put this in the MLS, I just want you to bring me a buyer because you say you're like the number one person in this zip code, that is completely okay. I just know if you step back and look at this logically, in order to facilitate getting the highest price on a limited good, which there's nothing more limited than a single family home, there's one of one.
Yep.
The best way to get that is to get competition. And the best way to get competition is put it out to the world. Yeah. I will acknowledge, and it's probably 10% of sellers. It's a non-zero number, but it's not gigantic. That basically tell their listing agent, don't put this on the MLS. That certainly does happen.
Yeah. Now, what about, I have another question for you on it. What about, let's just say I have a friend who was moving out of San Francisco. She was in the top unit. The person in the downstairs unit wanted to purchase it. And she did an off market with them, just said, yep, no, I'm not trying to maximize my price. In that particular situation, they still went through an agent in order to do it. But I assume the agent in what Zillow is recommending to say everything has to be listed on Zillow, the agent would still have to post it even if offers are due tomorrow. Essentially.
Yeah, I don't know.
One day on market.
So again, there are situations like your friend that says, I just need a transition. I'm moving on with my life. This is the last thing holding me in San Francisco. I just need it sold. My neighbor wants it done. Move on. Great. That happens. But again, if you want to step back and talk about how they could have gotten the highest price, they could have signed an agreement with that downstairs neighbor that said, we will give you the first right of refusal to counter the highest offer we get in 10 days. And then let them choose. Right? They could have done that. But back to what is Zillow doing? Zillow is declaring war, and I think they would as far as saying any property that is listed off market on another site will never be listed on Zillow. Did I read that headline correctly?
Yeah, that they would basically ban those listings.
They would,
and those agents, if they find out the agents are doing this, that they would ban them from being on Zillow.
So I look at that and go, isn't Zillow hurting themselves long term? Obviously, that's a big threat. Zillow is likely the biggest platform. I have no idea, but let's assume so. They got a big stick. That's a real threat, especially into a slowing market, right? We're in a market that we are today, which is a buyer's market in most of the country. That threat is real. If Zillow tried to do that in 21 and 22, agents would have laughed at them.
Yeah.
I don't need you. So let's not forget markets do change. And I think Zillow's got a big stick in a buyer's market, but I've been doing this a long time. Buyer's markets don't last forever. And, it could get really, if Zillow really does this, they could be boycotting 30 or 40% of stuff if we get into a seller's market. And then what does Zillow have? They have big holes in their market.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is that Zillow is one of the big listing websites out there. But don't forget, and we'll take Redfin's sale and price aside, Redfin is still another place a lot of people go to go and search for properties. And it does also lend its way, CoStar is really looking to get much more into the residential space. They've historically been commercial. I think for them, they're like probably delighted of great. We can go ahead and get into this place with homes.com and our own acquisitions to move into the residential space. So absolutely.
Yeah. I think Zillow is creating a flank in their strategy where competitors could come in and attack them pretty hard. Again, this strategy will feel really, really good in a buyer's market. It will be decimated in a seller's market. And, Zillow's got to be careful what they wish for.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's hard to change with these brokerages and their perceptions too.
Absolutely. So folks, at the end of the day, Zillow has declared war on off-market deals. Let us know in the comments. What do you think? Is this a good idea? Is it good for you? Where do you go? Are you on Zillow's side, or are you saying, what are you doing? You're crazy, Zillow. Just do your thing. Dana, where can people find you?
You can go to hemlane.com, www.hemlane.com. Mention one rental at a time, because our paid packages, you get 20% off. We do property management, and we will list your property on all of those listing platforms for you. Again, I don't think in rentals off market is a good idea when you're trying to find a tenant. So we'll make sure it gets seen everywhere.
Folks, and also if you're a landlord looking at a new market, you are sleeping on Hemlane's resources tab. I can't imagine the amount of money they spend keeping that up to date. It's full of value. Hemlane.com/resources. Check it out. Dana, you're amazing. Take care.
Thank you.